In Blackout, how you handle the final circle determines whether you win or lose the game. Hello, I am Amedio602, and in today's video, we are going to explore several final circle and end game situations and break down exactly what went into winning or losing each one. Let's get started.
Mission area secure. Good work.
Buckle your seatbelts, folks, grab some popcorn. This is going to be a long video, at least by my standards. But there is a ton of good information in here, and at the end, I'm actually going to summarize it all into a nice, easy 5-step program anyone can follow to win more games. Without further ado, our first gameplay comes from a quads game, where we had barely even seen anyone. Early on in this game, our team decided that we were more interested in getting a win than getting kills. So we all agreed to just hug the outskirts of the map and play for position, sticking to the edge of each circle. As luck would have it, all of us were alive with only a handful of other players remaining. Saber was actually in this game as well, but his connection dropped right before the final circle. Coming into the final circle, we had high ground, we had the skinny part of the storm, and we also had sensor darts available to cover our left flank. We chose to put the darts on the left because most of the fighting we had heard was coming from the left, so we knew that there were enemies there. These enemies were very smart and tried to avoid being in our sensor darts. Unfortunately for them, though, it forced them away from the final circle and into an area with lower elevation than our position. This proved to be very beneficial for us and cost them the game. At one point, there was only a single enemy remaining, and he pulled off a very well executed maneuver by changing his position to a very unpredictable location. Kudos to him. As you can see here, I threw 6, yes, count them 6 cluster grenades where I thought he was, and none of them even got a hit marker. We won this encounter only because of their decision to avoid the sensor darts. Usually, avoiding being in a sensor dart is a smart move, but in this case, we used the sensor darts to force them into a very bad position. A better option for them would have been to hold the high ground and try to either destroy the sensor darts or wait for them to expire. Gameplay number 2 here was really fun. It's also pretty unique because we actually dropped with a random who was trying to unlock woods, even though he was only level 23 and we couldn't even talk to him because we were in party chat. I don't even think he had a microphone. Fun fact, the level 23 player also did 23 damage this game. I think that's pretty cool. And if you agree, please drop a like right now for helping a new player unlock one of the hardest characters in the game. The final circle in this game was a lot less stressful than the first gameplay. All 4 of us were still alive against only a single enemy. The trick in this situation is to just spread out to avoid having multiple people killed at once by a grenade or a concussion. While searching the area, be sure to listen for enemy movement or gunshots, as the enemy is likely going to be very sneaky and try to pick off one player at a time. Luckily, I had a shotgun at the ready, and the last guy showed up at close range, so our new friend got his woods challenge pretty easily. I do feel a little bit bad for the solo player. There just wasn't a whole lot he could have done in this situation to win the game against us. It's very frustrating to be alone against an entire squad at the final circle. The third gameplay here is showing off the Hot Pursuit limited time mode. This mode seems to keep coming and going every week or so, and the final circle here plays differently than in a regular duos or quads game. The circle in Hot Pursuit plays a lot like an Alcatraz or a Down But Not Out final circle, because there's a good chance you'll have multiple teammates alive, and you'll probably be against more than one enemy, not like a regular quads match, like the one where we just unlocked woods. First of all, with Hot Pursuit, you need to keep an eye out for the police vehicles in the final circle, since they can easily give away your position due to the built-in sensor dart. But like the other modes I mentioned, your best bet is to try to secure the best position as close to the center of the final circle as possible. In this particular gameplay, you can see we have high ground above a few different groups, and these guys just really didn't stand much of a chance. High ground is very, very advantageous, as I have mentioned before in previous videos. We were in the modern houses, watching our backs as the storm came to us. Guys with the storm right at their backs are such easy kills. It's not even close to a fair fight, especially not at the end of a game of Alcatraz, Hot Pursuit, or Down But Not Out, where the storm does so much damage. There's really not even a chance to revive your teammates most of the time. When we leave the houses here, we do check our backs. You don't want the storm right at your back, just in case you need to stop and fight or take some quick cover. But you also want to make sure no one can get behind you. We head for the highest hill we can find toward the center of the circle.
Headshot. Double kill.
Once we get up there, it's just a GG to these poor dudes down below. Like I said, they never really stood a chance with 3 of us raining bullets down over top of them. GG, guys. Now, this 4th gameplay was absolutely miserable. This is even some vintage 2018 gameplay too, even back before the bags got upgraded. Holy cow. I thought there was absolutely no way we were going to win this game, but it just goes to show how perseverance can pay off in Blackout. This was another regular quads game, and we were stuck in the desert with terrible equipment. Then we got pinned in by, like 2 or 3 different groups of snipers. At one point, it felt like we had a sniper watching every side of us. It was crazy. None of them would stop firing at us either. We literally sat and camped in these rocks here for, 5 solid minutes, picking each other up when we got downed. Getting downed, picking each other up, healing, repairing our armor, and we were just waiting for anyone to save us from the different groups of snipers or for them to kill each other off. But it just took so long, and they really all just wanted to keep shooting at us. It literally felt like the whole lobby was against us, and they all had sniper rifles, and we all had terrible, terrible desert equipment. At one point here, you can actually see Grey Fox and I both get downed, but both of us get revived at the same time, even though we only had one other guy alive on our team. Do any of you know how this mechanic works in the game? I'm not really sure if it's supposed to happen, but hey, maybe it's a feature and not a bug. It would be really cool if anyone could leave a comment down below explaining this double revive mechanic, if you happen to know how it works, because I have no idea. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. This gameplay demonstrates using patience, not necessarily just at the final circle, but throughout the game. If you're under-equipped for a fight, or just pinned down with no good alternatives, there's absolutely no point in taking a silly risk and dying over it. Instead, just keep your head down and avoid fighting if you have to in order to survive. I really don't know how I lived through 2 sets of armor breaking. Even more amazing, I actually managed to get a kill with a Molotov. That Molotov kill has got to be worth a thumbs up on this video, so do that right now. Thank you. At this point, we had a 2v1 fight, and the trick here again is to make sure you spread out to kill the final enemy. In this case, I managed to wound the enemy quite a bit so that my teammate could finish the job. Communication is vital here, so please be sure you and your teammates are using microphones whenever possible and calling out the enemy as soon as you know where they are. The theme for gameplay number 5 is really simple. Don't be stupid. That's it. Just don't be stupid, like these 2 guys I'm about to take out here. GG fellas, but you just didn't play this engagement well at all. One dude stood out in the open and fired on me when I had high ground, and the other guy ran up the ramp and he just stood there like he was texting on his phone or something. Texting. Can you imagine if they added a cell phone attachment to your weapon in Call of Duty so you could sit there and send texts or tweets while you played?
Headshot.
They could even have one with a picture of some fruit on it with a bite taken out and charge twice as many COD points for Oh, by the way, if any of you are on Twitter, check out the link in the description if you want to follow me. Sorry, us old dudes are easily distracted. Anyway, I could have easily won this game while tweeting. That's just how bad the last guy was. When the final storm came, I had the high ground and I never even saw him. I can't stress this enough. Don't be like this guy who dies to the storm because you got yourself stuck in a bad position. You've got to be more proactive and put yourself where you can take the high ground for the final circle. Now, I'll be the first to admit, Gameplay 5 was a little bit boring, but I'm making up for it right here with Gameplay number 6. Before I do though, check out these clips from earlier on in that game. We had one of those games where we landed at construction and Vonderhaar pulled us all the way out to the desert for the final circle. so we ended up driving all the way across the map. In the first clip, we got chased down by a gang and an ARAV. Then in the second clip here, we've got 2 ATVs, and the other group got hit by a mesh mine, so I stopped our ATV, and we had a terrific fight where we managed to save Gray Fox, but poor Saber, he had to clock out early for this game. Don't worry, Saber, we got you, man. We still bring home the dub.
Double kill.
Now you can pull out your phone and check Facebook or whatever. Ooh, look at that KN. Pick up a couple of nice, easy kills across the river there. KN's one of my favorite guns for a long-range battle. Approaching the final circle, there are only 6 or 7 guys left. We have 3 on our team. We got super lucky here to have that final circle fall on us, so we just set up shop right here where we were. And that's what you want to have happen going into the final circle. Put down your trophy systems, your sensor darts, or whatever you have available. We were pretty well looted in this game, so we happen to have both of those. Then it's just playing the waiting game. Find yourself a nice piece of cover or a head glitch and just wait them out. Pull out your phone and start tweeting or whatever you gotta do to make yourself comfortable. Remember, when you have the final circle, they've got to come to you. So play it smart, don't rush at them, don't let them flank you like this one guy tried to do to us, and you'll get Saber punched back in before you know it.
Oh, hell yeah. All objectives complete. Stand down.
Alright, our last gameplay number 7 is coming up right now. Lucky number 7, you know? And Gray Fox and I got super lucky and rolled ourselves 11s against these guys. And man, this lobby was sweaty. Nobody in this lobby was texting, no one was sending tweets. In fact, the last guy we killed was streaming at the time. His name's Odd Chucky, and I went back after this game and watched the gameplay and his reaction. He is a very good player. If anyone's looking for a new streamer to watch, I'd suggest checking out his channel over on Twitch. GG, Odd Chucky. Now the strategy in this circle was pretty dirty, I'll admit. Good thing too. Chucky probably would have punched both our clocks if we had gotten into a fair fight with him and his partner. I'm telling you, these guys were beasts. They both had 7 kills this game. They had the high ground on us, and they had the storm. Anyway, strategy here was what I like to call we play winner. Back in the good old days, we'd have lines at the arcade. At the end of each match, whoever won would get to stay at the machine and play again. The loser, of course, had to go to the end of the line. Then the next player in line would play whoever won the previous game. When you see other groups fighting in Blackout, just wait for the fight to end, or almost end, and just third party whoever's winning. We did that this game and took out Chucky's partner. Then it was a 2v1. As I've said before, in a 2v1 you want to spread out so that you don't both get killed by one grenade. Gray Fox kept him pinned down from a distance. I flanked Odd Chucky, stunned him, and then killed him for the win. Ooh, how sweet it was too. Notice, they had the final circle and the height advantage, so we couldn't just sit around like we did in gameplay number 6. We had to push the other player in this situation. Now, I know I said gameplay number 7 was the last gameplay, and it is the last one that I'm analyzing today. The gameplay on the screen now is really just to give you all something to watch while I analyze my analysis. Man, you can tell how big of a nerd I am, huh? Not only do I sit around playing Call of Duty all the time, but I have a YouTube channel where I do analysis of my gameplays, and here I am adding another layer of analysis on top of my analysis. But hear me out. While I was watching these gameplays and thinking about what I was going to say, it occurred to me that there are a few patterns here that I didn't even realize until I started talking about them and looking at them. Now, there is some obvious stuff. Take the high ground, use your equipment, shoot the bad guys. Yeah, I can hear you all now. We all know all that stuff already, Amidio. Tell us something new. Okay, well here goes. Think about the gameplay where we were stuck in the rocks, pinned in between the groups of snipers. That was gameplay number 4. Now, compare that to what you just saw in gameplay number 7 against Odd Chucky. At the surface, there isn't a lot that those two gameplays seem to have in common. But, in both of them, we knew where the enemies were by paying attention to where the previous fighting had been. Now, Think about the first gameplay, where I said we put the sensor darts to the left because we'd heard fighting from that direction. In all 3 of those gameplays, we had been paying a lot of attention to previous gunfights and listening to be able to take a good guess at the location of the other enemies. Now, think about gameplay number 5, where the guy died to the storm while I was on the top of the mountain, and compare that to gameplay number 3, where we had those guys pinned behind the rock at the end of the street and we had the high ground near the modern houses. Keeping those enemies pinned behind that rock until the storm pushed them out was just like pushing the enemies from the first gameplay into a bad location with our sensor darts. We had an advantageous position. They got pushed to a disadvantageous? Is that a word? I don't know. I'm going to leave it in here just because I like it. They got pushed into a disadvantageous location, and we won the game. Now, in gameplay number 6, with the trophy system and the sensor dart in the desert, we had the circle and we just sat there and defended it. Even in gameplay number 2, we had control of the final circle before it became the final circle, when we unlocked woods for the random teammate, just because there were 4 of us and only 1 of them. All we had to do was spread out and search the area. So the trick in all this is to secure the location of the final circle before the final circle gets there. The not so obvious lesson for how to handle the final circle is actually something that makes a lot of sense once you start analyzing gameplay after gameplay and using your brain a little bit. I think this is the best tip I can give you to win more games in Blackout. Prepare for the final circle prior to the final circle. That might sound a little confusing, but stay with me. Here's what I mean. Once that final circle gets called out by the announcer and appears on your minimap, you want to get there first. And you don't just want any location in the final circle, you want the best location. What you want to do is push into the second to last circle a little more than you normally would. You know, not all the way at the edge of the storm. And if you listen for fighting near you, you can have a pretty good idea where most of the enemies are. When you do that, it'll give you a great chance of getting the final circle to land somewhere close to you. Once it gets called out by the announcer, take the best possible position within the final circle, and set up shop like we did in gameplay number 6, with the trophy system and the sensor dart. That gives you control over the final engagement so you can maximize your chances of winning. That might not make a lot of sense, but I'm going to go ahead and break it down into a simple 5-step process to win more games in Blackout. Step 1. For all the circles up to the second to last circle, stay as close to the edge of the storm as you can. And if you're not a confident player, or if you just want to win and don't care about getting kills, stay as far away from heavily populated areas as possible, preferably near the edge of the map. Step 2. As you approach the end of the game, try to pay attention to where the fighting is happening. If you need loot, or just want to get kills, head toward the fighting and try to score some kills and loot for yourself. At this point, you should also be listening for any other signs of players, like vehicles. What you're trying to do is get a good general awareness of where the other players are on the map. Step 3. When the second to last circle is called, think about that area of the map and try to locate a power position, like the roof of a building or the tallest hill or the best cover in the area, and navigate your way there. If you've been paying attention to the fighting, as I suggested in Step 2, you should have a pretty good idea of which areas to avoid, or at least where you might get into a fight. Step 4. Once the final circle is called by the announcer and appears on your minimap, be the first one to get into the best position in the final circle. Since you should be in a pretty good position from Step 3, you might not even have to move. But if you do have to move, you should still have a good idea of where everyone else on the map is. And Step 5. Since you have a good position for the final circle, it only makes sense to hold that position. If you outnumber the enemies, you can spread out a little bit. If you're outnumbered, make sure you use your equipment and position to even the odds. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. and I hope you picked up some useful tips and tricks along the way. If you've watched this far, please help me out by liking the video and subscribing to the channel if you're not already. You can also ring the notification bell if you don't want to miss out on any of my future videos. Thank you very much for watching.